So I had him practice walking out and sitting down in his footstool and sitting in a chair and just nodding to the audience. He did that 3 or 4 times. And the day of the show, he came in and he kicked his footstool into the orchestra. I said, so much for practice. But he went on to play great, and he is now a professor at one of the community colleges in Knowles. So I think I'll wait for the turn work out. Now, I don't want a job as a professor, don't get me wrong. Well, and none of there was that many of us here because I've seen you all in the hall and then at the lunchroom, you know. But here we are all at once. So I showed up last Sunday, I guess. There were 2 or 3 days, a dozen of us kind of holed up in one of the small rooms and drove ourselves crazy and worked hard. Everybody left the room with some assignments and some inspiration, I hope. And it was time to replace their strings already as we wore them out. So this year, you know, one of the ways I would celebrate my birthday is I reflect on where things are, you know. And I'll tell you my birthday is actually January the 6th, so I've changed it. It is now the 12th day of Christmas. And so this birthday, I look back, and it was 70 years ago, I bought a plastic ukulele. And with good intentions, having no idea where I was headed. And then 50 years ago is the year that I met Chet. So there's a lot of, and then I looked and it's his 99th birth year this year. And next year is his 100th. This is of course written in 40th also. Just seeing to me there was a lot of round number stuff. You know, so I decided I would kind of look back over some things that I had done with Chet. And one of them is the very first thing we did is I arranged some tunes for him to go in his Chet Goes to the Movies album. And then after that, I moved to town. Excuse me. And we would get together every now and then. And we had so many unusual ways of working. And I found out later he was doing that with everybody. It wasn't just me. But it always felt like I was the only one. And he just had that way of feeling like whoever was in the room felt like that was all. But then he would leave the room and go to another thing and make somebody else feel that same way. So a couple of friends of mine and I went to the rehearsal of the Dallas Symphony. And matter of fact, one of the friends that was there with me today was Bill Span. And who's been to see the show for years, and we feel his spirit with us this evening. And so we introduced ourselves, and then Chet says, John Knowles, he says, I think Rick Foster showed me some of your stuff. And he started playing some of my music. You know, excuse me, Twilight Zone. And then he handed me his guitar and said, show me what you're working on. And so here's what had happened. Becky's folks had been to see that movie, The Sting, and they walked out of the theater and called us and said, we think John would like that music. So why don't you guys go see that movie? So we went to see the movie. We walked out of the theater into a music store, and I bought the Easy Big Note, how to play the music from the entertainer, from The Sting. And it was not like piano. So Becky did a few piano lessons, so I had her play through the thing. And then I found keys that would work. And I was working on the entertainer, and so Chet says, show me what you're working on. And the part I had was this. And he said, finish that up and send it to me. And then Bill and I walked out. He said, man, you played for Chet Atkins. I said, no. He said, yeah, that was you. That was him. You were playing. But it didn't feel like I was playing like Chet Atkins. What it felt like is I sat down with another guitar player, just like it feels when we all, sit around to hear. And I later found out that that was one of his main characteristics as a record producer, was to be able to put talent at ease. Because by the time I met him, he was 5 or 6 Grammys, he was in the Country Music Hall of Fame. It would have been really easy for me to pass out. Especially since I spent years wearing out the vinyl. But it didn't feel that way. Just like, oh, okay, here's what I'm working on. And he said, and I told him I was doing solos as well. He said, well, send me the Entertainer. I said, I think that's the hit. And I realized later, he's always fishing to see which one is going to kind of rise to the top, As a matter of fact, it did rise to the top. It won him a Grammy.
Wow.
And I thought, well, this is an easy business. It's not. I've been misled. But after that happened, well, to get to the Grammy, first what happened is, he said, send me some more movie tunes. I sent him the Entertainer. I kind of stumbled through it on cassette. And I checked back with him a week later. He said, no, I've recorded that one. Send me some more. I'm going to do an album of movie music. Now I'm kind of learning how he works. I sent him a cassette, a week later he's finished recording it. So, fast learner. And I found he didn't do it exactly like I said. He sounded a lot more like Chet Atkins than I did. And I also found, and I found this out again from watching him work with a lot of people, the reason I think he enjoyed working with me is because I knew what he was doing, but I wasn't doing it. Because I think there were plenty of people that could sound like Chet Atkins and play like Chet Atkins, but he could already do that. What I could do is make up things that sounded like maybe I thought of it and maybe it was Chet Atkins, but he hadn't done it yet. So one of the things that we did for that, when he said, let's think of what are some movies like this? I said, well, that movie, A Man and a Woman. He said, yeah, that's a nice tune, work out with that, And that one was a... Keeping in mind that I still haven't seen him up close. And so I don't know that when he's going to play 2 notes on the backbeat, he would have brushed them with his thumb pick. Right? And I was doing a thumb, and then on the backbeat I was doing this. My classic guitar style was kind of short through there. So when we got together to proofread the thing, he said, show me what you're doing on that Man and Woman. And what he had done, he had played it like this. I said, these 2 notes, he played them with his thumb pick, and he did this. Because he heard me barehanded squeaking on the strings. He thought it was nice, some effect I was trying to get. And so he played, so you do know what I'm doing, but also scraping the string from his thumb pick, And that's the kind of stuff that I discovered once I watched him up close. Thumb and finger kind of thing, And then, so we're working on this stuff. And our son, Jay, knows I've got this assignment. He sees me up until all hours, working on these things. And he says, Dad, he said, you ought to send Chet that music from the cartoons. And he said, and I said, yeah, that'd be a good one. So he goes, I'll get my cassette player, and next Saturday I'll sit in front of the TV, and I'll push the button and record, So he did. And being a classical guitarist, I heard, woodwind trio and steel guitar and a bunch of instruments, and I transcribed it exactly like it was, which was this. Instead of doing this, Chet did this. Sounds much more like Chet than I did. So all those little changes that were really fun to hear, how he took what I sent, not as gospel, but as an opportunity, And so when I got the whole thing done, and then Guitar Player Magazine asked me also to write a book of all those tunes. So he sent me the acetate of the album, but it hadn't been pressed yet. So I could listen to it for about 8 weeks to write down all the songs that they had chosen. I want to stand up to it, And that's the first time I'd had like a giant assignment like that. I'd written down things while I listened to the record, and I'd learned from the records. But to write a book that somebody else would learn from, or they would phone me from Cleveland and say, hey, measure 6, case 2, So I had to be real careful to get it right. And then when the Entertainer won a Grammy, I tell you how I found that out. I was over at a friend's house and we were playing cards and had the TV on. And they rolled the screen. These are awards that were given away earlier in the day before the show, And the scroll was like, Chet is the Entertainer. So I called him the next morning. I said, did that really happen? Yeah. And I didn't even know it was nominated. He didn't phone me. He did nothing. He just took everything in stride. And so, but after that, I thought about moving to Nashville. I said, but I'm not sure, it's a good idea. So what are you doing in Texas? And I said, well, I'm teaching and playing in restaurants and, things like that. He said, we do all that stuff here. And I found out years later, Pat Bergerson said, well, I'm doing this and that and that. And Chet says, we do all that here. So I think he must have told a dozen people the same thing. And what he was doing, he was clearing the runway without encouraging me too much. He said, come to Nashville, I'll make you stop. He knew I had to take care of the family too. So now when we're really here, I find out that I can work in a different way with Chet. And one of the first things I remember was him calling me up. And he said, I've got this tune started, and I want you to come down. I'll show you what I have so far. And then I want you to finish it. And so what he had was my little waltz halfway, and he had this was. He showed me that much and made me a cassette and sent me home. And so for a couple of days I worked on it. And what I did, I thought as a classical player, when you pick out themes. And so I heard the, where's that kind of like open string was. And then I also heard that. And so I took one of those things I already heard and I did this. It's like back in the key of A and then into D. So then we got together and I showed him what I had. And we didn't have an intro. So there's this chord, which if you do this with it, that's what Tommy would call chords, together this intro. So like that, you know. And you guys have heard the record, right? And if you pick up a Chet 99 pack, you'll hear me play it all the way through. Like I played it, not quite like he played it. I want you guys to learn some of these tunes so that next year when we get together for 100, we can have, well, we can't light 100 candles, that's a fire code issue. But there's no reason we couldn't play 100 tunes one after the other, you know, have a big celebration. So that's the kind of way, you know, he would come up with something and say, hey, get down here, won't you? And I found he was doing the same thing with like Randy Goodrum, you know, that Waltz of the Lonely. That's Chet writing half of it and called Randy Goodrum in. So they have a co-write, but it's like A section, B section, but then weave the thing together. It's the way he worked. And I'll bet you he was doing the same thing with other people. I just didn't know it, you know. It's just his style. And so then one day he called me up, and it was like about this time of year, I guess, because it was hot. Not this hot, but. And he said, get down here. I've got a Christmas tune I've started, and I want to do a Christmas album. And what he showed me was East Tennessee Christmas, all unto me, da 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 da, and that's all he had. So he showed me that and the chords he was playing, and I can't sing it now. And I come down here kind of uncapable of what he did. I see, East Tennessee Christmas, called unto me. And then we made a list of everything you do at Christmas. And I said, be sure and tell me the way you did these things. Like some people buy a tree, some people go out and chop down a tree, some people decorate a tree, some people trim a tree. Well, in his family, they light the tree. So hang up the stockings, light the tree, and then wait up for Santa, Christmas Eve. That's all Christmas stuff, right? So, East Tennessee Christmas, all unto me. Hang up the stockings, light the tree, wrap all the presents, save one for me. Wait up for Santa, Christmas Eve. And then we did that much, and I had some lessons to teach. Hey man, the place I taught lessons was like a block and a half from his place, and in between was Jerry Reed's office, not bad digs, you know. And he had some meetings to go to because he's the head of RCA Records, you know. So come on over to the house this evening, and we'll finish it up. See if I can grab some water from my scratching voice. And I think all of you have seen a picture of Chet's kitchen table where he had the the shortwave radio, you know, and that was just a place where you went to his house to work. Sometimes it was downstairs in the studio. But if you're making up stuff, it was to sit at the kitchen table. And just like you would if you're at somebody's house, you know. So we're at the kitchen table and we take what we've got so far. Well, we had recorded what we had so far on this cassette tape, so we would lose it, you know. And I've been thinking about it, and I thought, you know, we don't get a white Christmas in Tennessee. I said, we just, you know, you don't know. I said, it might snow. And he said, don't you know? Right? And what else would he say, you know? So I said, it might snow, but don't you know? I don't care. And the next lines fell out like dominoes. It might snow, but don't you know? It'll be the best of Christmases if you are there. And so we had the middle part. And now we've got this part up front. We've settled up White Christmas. And the only part that we haven't settled yet is coming home for Christmas. As in, I'll be home for Christmas. We can't steal that. But that's the idea, right? Too long without you, too much on my own. Tennessee Christmas, and I'm going home. we get that much worked out. And now Leona's been in the other room watching the Atlanta Braves on TV. And she comes in, she says, sing that middle part again. So, it might snow, but don't you know that I don't care. It'll be the Christmases if you want. She said, keep that going. Da 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 da. And she sang the lines. And so it would it'd be the best if you want. And that was her singing. You know? So when you think about what all Chet is grabbing out of the air like that and using, that's the song one thing we got out of the meeting. So we made a cassette that day, and Leona was singing on that cassette, I think. And then I've got to head off to summer camp because it's that time of year, right? And I remember going up to the Fusion Sound Guitar workshop where Becky and I will go again this summer. And I came back and Chet had recorded the whole thing. He said, only needs one more thing. I said, what? He said, you need to sing some background vocals. Who does he think he's talking to here? And I had never done that. So typical of Chet to lob some assignment out there. You just wanted to see if you could do it. And if you could do it, I wanted to give you the opportunity. So when you listen, that's me and Chet. And you ready for this? Bernie. So, oh, yes. So that's me singing background, and Bergen White is singing background. So Bergen lived a block or so away from Chet, and Chet would call him up all the time to work on projects. And so that's part of why you hear them working together so much over the years. And for a little while, I kind of thought I'd been ducked in the mix. I thought I wasn't there. And no, I think I am there. It's really hard to sing background vocals because you've got to match the timing and the phrasing of the artist, or else you sound like you're auditioning for a record deal, instead of trying to fit in and blend. So I never, and I will say this, I don't think he ducked me in the mix, but he didn't call and ask me to do that again. So I took that as, I'll settle for that. Then the other thing that would happen a lot is I knew kind of to go by his office at 3 or 4 o'clock because he would work at home for a while and he would go into the office to return phone calls. And about 3 or 4 o'clock, when things had settled down, people would show up and he would hang out. So I kind of figured out when hangout time was. And one time I got there a little early. It's happened several times, really. And he's doing phone calls, and he says, you play something while I return phone calls. I found out he did that with lots of people. You know, Bluefinger, that's Jerry playing while Chet is on the phone. And Chet realizes something interesting is happening and records it. And Jerry forgets it. Later, when I transcribed Bluefinger and I played it for Jerry, he said, what's that? I said, that's Bluefinger. Never heard it. And what he did do, he later, that same idea, I think, became Jiffy Jam, which has got the same bass line and some different moves. So I think he was noodling around with an idea, and that day, he played Bluefinger and Chet got it. So I'm noodling around, and Chet's on the phone. There's somebody on hold. He says, tune your 4th string down a fret. Okay. And I moved around. I thought, why is he asking me to do that? And he finished the phone call. He said, give me your guitar. He said, look at this. He said, it plays the blues. It's got the chords built in, and you've got room, for licks. And I said, oh, well, that's like an A9 chord. He said, when I was in a kid, and I played in a Hawaiian restaurant. I think the steel guitar player, he uses like a C9 chord. The tune is steel. And Chet said, play the Hawaiian turnaround, you know. And I laughed and I said, we should write Hawaiian blues. And we called it like Honolulu Blue. And man, we just immediately, we all laughed at what happened. Well, look what happened. Phone calls, tune that string down. It plays the blues. My friend, this all happened in about 4 sentences, and we're working on the tune together. So his way of kind of grabbing stuff out of the air and going for it. And what I did was, later that day, we had kind of written a rough version of the tune. And I went home and I wrote words like I do, not to sing, but to kind of phrase and hold the thing together. So my words were like, when you said twist on the Hawaiian turnaround. And then he took the thing home and made the rest of it. And the next time I heard it, it was all recorded. And I had never learned how to play it or anything. I had just been there, you know, doing kind of what I'm doing tonight. And the stuff at the beginning, it sounds like a steel guitar intro. That's Daryl Ditka on his keyboard with a wheel, doing something. It's on that street wheel. And then I also put a version of the way I learned it without the fancy stuff. Well, look at this. If you get this, because that chord, you just good around the third string, you could make kind of a steel guitar sound intro. So I want to hear some original intros and add to them, I thought, you know, next year. Now I should tune back up, and I'll be careful. Chet says, tune up, boy, it hurts my ear. And the other thing you could get to, and this is everybody in town, who's in the studio and who could use a song, was kind of all over. And Chet had met George Benson, and he and Earl Clue and George had played on public television. Now George was going to come to town, and Chet and George were going to record some tunes. And I thought, okay, let me see if I can do something that will go out there. And so the first thing I thought of, you know, if it's a jazz thing, you write the 2-chord, like that, the 5-chord, the 1-chord. It's like a Blue Moon stuff inside out. But you start, you end on that, what you do. And so I was in a key of D, and I was doing it, some Lenny Rowe kind of changes, right? And then I wrote a melody on top of that. And I still didn't show it to him. I did this. This is the beginning to Night and Day. You know, which George Benson would be all over, right? So now what I've done is I've got 2-5-1 for George Benson, and I've got the Night and Day intro for George, and I've got this melody, and I haven't finished it. So now I'm going to go see if I can egg my co-writer into helping me out. And so we finished it, they recorded it, record labels couldn't decide, should it be on George's label or Chet's label. It has gathered to dust below these many years.
Oh.
And so the bridge ended up being like this. I still didn't have a title. So I said, well, no, it's got that kind of Caribbean feel. So you're like chord, down E, chord. And somebody says, what is that? And I thought, it's a Kachunga. I made that up. And nobody's ever questioned it. I said, it's a Kachunga. So he said, yeah, that's that. So we went upstairs, we were downstairs in the studio, and he got the globe out and spun it and pointed to the Caribbean, and he missed and hit Barbados. He said, oh, my granddaughter was born there, Amanda. This is Amanda from Barbados. So, and I see Amanda from time to time out in the grocery, you know. So at some point, somebody's going to record this. Meanwhile, you got to learn it so we can play duets and keep it going. It's up to us, you know, to keep Amanda from Barbados. That's your assignment. So a lot of you stopped by the table and bought the Chet 99 package. Here comes the infomercial, right? And we've still got a few of these left. Becky, Rita, and Henry will be at the table in the morning. All the tunes I showed you here, plus a few more, are all written out, audio lessons, so that you can learn a tune or two of your choosing, or all 12, what Vickers does in right. And next year it will be Chet 99, it will be Chet 100. Then you get my buddy